So when it comes to what is a community of interest, we can use the data and identify it, but really the definition of a community of interest or a neighborhood is whatever the people who live there say is their neighborhood. So it could be a school attendance area, it could be a neighborhood around a park, it could be an area between major roads. All these things are legitimate considerations when defining what is your community of interest. Or it could be getting into the data, a neighborhood where there's more Spanish speakers at home, that kind of thing. And there are two questions. In districting and redistricting, we talk all about communities of interest, but we often forget the second question, which is, does a community want to be kept together so that they have the maximum political power or maximum voting strength in one district and are most likely to elect one person from their community? Or do they want to be divided so that they actually have multiple council members answering to their neighborhood? It obviously lowers their voting strength in each of those districts, but gives them a voice in multiple districts. This comes up most often in schools, where they intentionally divide up the school attendance zones so that no trustee feels like they own a school. You don't want trustees calling the principal and saying, hey, you're my school. So they will often draw some funding lines for school districts in order to make sure that 2 or even 3 school board members represent every school, or at least represent the kids who go there. Downtown areas are another example. We talk a lot about Pasadena. The city of Pasadena intentionally drew all their council districts to touch Colorado and the Old Town development, so that each council member would feel a stake in that development. So there, they defined downtown as a community of interest, and then they respected it by making sure every council member had a stake in it. So these are the kinds of things that come up. One is, what is your community of interest? 2 is, do you want to be kept together in one seat, where you might dominate that one district, but it's still only 1 of 5 votes, or do you want multiple representatives on the council? So it's an important second question. For those that are a little more want to get in the numbers or want to look at other demographics beyond just the total population, there's a full kit that has instructions and things like that. I'll show this briefly in summary. And instead of population numbers on the map, it has ID numbers. So that as you look here, you can see, and they go from north to south. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I think I have it open here. Yes. This will be easier to see here. So when you download the file, on the first tab, you get the instructions for use. On the second tab, you get this assignment sheet. And what you do is just go down it and looking at that map, you just type in which district you want each population unit to go into. I'll just stick some random numbers in here. And then what happens, you can see a little bit of a running total up here in the corner. So you can see so far in District 1, I've got almost 3,000 people. I'm 7,000 short. More importantly, on the third tab, here are the population numbers and the demographics of each district as they've been drawn. So people that want more control or that don't want to do the math themselves, this is a handy tool. And the other thing I mentioned, the districts need to be about even in population. They need to be within those ranges. When all the districts are in those ranges, this total deviation square will turn green. So it lets people know that they're good. The other thing I always encourage people to do, whether they send in the paper kit or the Excel kit or however they send in, is describe their map. I think this map makes sense because what happens is someone who lives on the west side will spend an hour or 2 drawing their district just perfectly because they know it really well. And then they'll kind of fill in the rest of the map to balance populations and not pay as much attention. And they'll draw some lines that someone over, for example, on the east side of town hates. Well, if you put in here that, well, I really wanted to get this west side district just right, knitting for this reason, and then I filled in the rest of the map. The person over the east side will know not to get really mad, just to adjust the lines and submit their version, and we can take the 2 and put them together. Our record is someone submitted 19 maps in Menifee, and a little crazy, a little over the top. But what he was doing is anyone who sent in a map, he only cared about one neighborhood. So he got in the 15 maps that people sent in, and he adjusted every one of them to fix his neighborhood to the way that he wanted, so that he could then say, I really like their map everywhere else, but use my version of it. And that's the kind of thing that you can't get from looking at the map. That needs to be in the words. And so we do encourage people to say, so the council has the flexibility to know, how might we put these maps together to achieve their goals without the exact lines they submitted. So this is the Excel tab. If people aren't familiar with Excel, no need to touch it. No need to go and learn Excel for this. You can just take a pen and paper and add up the numbers yourself, and that's just fine. The other thing that we offer is this interactive view map that's linked on the city website. So if you want to get into detail on where these lines are for each of the districts, let me see if I think I have this up already. Yes. You can go to this page, and again, it'll be a link off the city website when we get all this up. A little bit of instructions, but I'll show you this. You just close the instructions. So up here, you got plus and minus. You can zoom in and zoom out and see exactly where those lines are, see exactly where different features are inside, and you can change it. These are the population numbers right now. You can change it to show the ID numbers or change it to show the dual numbers. So this shows both the population and the ID number. But this lets you zoom in, and there's a little bit of hidden trick here, which is if you go up to these arrows, and this is mentioned in the instructions, you can change it to be a satellite image or to be a topographical map if you want to see kind of where things are. For example, the park, you can really see it when you switch to those other views. And the key thing is this is somewhat useful for the kits. When each draft map comes out, we will include it here as a layer so that people will be able to check and uncheck the different draft maps and compare them. And as you can see, this is ESRI and Microsoft making the base map. They're starting to put in individual houses now, so you can really see the details of where each map will go. And then you just click on the home to go back to the main view. So it's a handy little tool, lets you see the details that may be hard to make out on an 8.5 by 11 map.